This week on Arizona Illustrated, Road Trip. Our first stop, the old Nogales Highway.
You could show them what Tucson was by just going down that road and back.
Then, name that street.
Plumber.
Plumer.
Ina.
Ina.
Plus, traffic control 80s style.
4:45, we start putting them down. Then 5:45, we start picking them up again.
And Arizona Profiles, a Vietnam vet. Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. There was a time when a street was simply named for its destination. Ajo Way to Ajo, Oracle Road to Oracle. Nogales Highway was once the direct route to the town of Nogales and the international border. As the city and state grew, streets were absorbed, evolved, their names changed, as did the relationship between the road and those who traveled or lived and worked alongside it. Artist and architect Bill Mackey explored that connection along what we now call the old Nogales Highway.
This road leaves our settlement. It goes past other settlements and continues through countless others. It converges on itself into a point on the horizon. It disappears behind a curve or a hill into a land unseen, unknown. It is a vista, a landscape, a path, a line on a plane. It is real. We can touch it, we can travel on it. It makes noise when we move on it. It grumbles and crunches and swooshes and screeches and bumps. That was a crazy childhood. I had to buy a tuxedo in high school to go to, dances. Which isn't Tucson. So I have no idea about this project. We're embarking on a ride down the road of 6th Avenue, which was the old Nogales Highway. It's a cool road. This is a project that I proposed to an organization that gave me money to do it. Right now, what I'm doing is just going up and down the road. My family used to take trips to West Virginia every year from Illinois, and I videoed the whole thing from New Martinsville, West Virginia, all the way to Chicago. And I videoed Speedway, I videoed all these different paths that we take from one house to a grocery store. And so I'm interested in this movement thing. And maybe with this project, I'm trying to hit it home and figure out why I'm doing this, because I really don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's so random in how it developed or how it became whatever it is right now. And maybe every street is kind of like that. All my artwork's about the city, it's about the landscape, it's about buildings and how they fit within the roadway and all that stuff. I like to say that I like to make the mundane precious. It's always a really fine balance of not coming off as an erudite or an elitist or someone who's snarky about it, because I don't want to be any of those. This is kind of the end of the road as far as I'm concerned, at least for the project. Figure out somewhere to turn around with quasi-commercial and retirement homes and a butterfly garden. La Posada. They spelled everything differently here. There's the Centra and the Shoppies. There's something about this project that I want to capture the experience of really just driving down that road and coming back into town.
Train tracks.
Is this like the kind of stuff that you think about when you're in bed at night or you're
No. No, I think about my clients and how I got to make sure I follow the right code for a door swing or something. So I don't get in trouble. No, I don't. This is what I think about when I do these projects, which is what's so awesome. I thought today would be like, just stop when we think there's a cool image. I love this building facade. Sorry, I'm gonna make my first stop. This is gonna be like the first of probably 7 or 8 trips, I would think, doing this. When you start looking at a landscape and you're just doing it open-ended without any sort of agenda, there's kind of an information overload. I could spend hours and hours on one street corner, but I know I don't have the time for that.
All right, that's enough of this for us.
If somebody asked me, well, what Tucson is all about, without even saying a word, you could show them what Tucson was by just going down that road and back. You start in downtown Tucson, you go through South Tucson, you go through the casino, Raytheon, and the airport, and desert, and then pecan orchards. And you see everything in between. You see rec centers and trains and cement factories. Any roadway that you go down, you can start to see what makes a city be a city. The first time we went out was kind of how I want the piece to end up being, is capturing that feeling. And now I have to be an artist or scientist or whatever and find meaning in that, unfortunately.
Hi, are you coming to the bus?
Oh, shit.
Can you hear? Do I need to speak louder into the microphone? Yes, you can hear me, or yes, I need to speak louder into the microphone. This project started out as a book in the grant proposal. The more I investigated Old Nogales Highway, the more I got mesmerized by just going down it. And the book vanished. Onto the road we go, away into the horizon, cruising past the measured rhythm of intersections, streetlights, and power poles, past the vistas, along with the clouds, and the ostrich, brittle bush, cell phone towers, trees, palms.
For me, he's always somebody who opens my eyes, but makes the observations of this world interesting and delightful.
Mail trucks, airplanes, missile factories, mountains, orchards.
It really made us slow down and engage with our environment and look at our environment in a really different way.
And sidewalks merge into an image of place in our heads. Not a care in the world. Just this ephemeral visage of the landscape roaring up to our windshield, momentarily paused and then gone in an instant.
Bill always brings a kind of something that oscillates between what you think is sarcasm and what is an acceptance of the world today as it unfolds. He puts you in all these ways of seeing that world, but he never tells you what you should think. I walk away trying to figure out, what do I really think about this?
Nostalgia is some messy, beautiful, dangerous, sentimental notion of memory and history. History is data. Memory is personal. Old Nogales Highway is living, real-time nostalgia. It is history before us, in a way no other place in Tucson is. Old Nogales Highway is our memory right before our eyes. No collage, the real deal. Even if we didn't live here for generations, we can go down it and get a feel for what it was like back then, and that other then. If they widen Old Nogales Highway, which part would the preservationists say, wait a second, you can't do that, this is something special here? Which part would they not care about? What would their hired professionals profess? What is sacred about the experience? A physical building, a memento, a memory, the way our world in this particular place meets the sky? What is our future in this place? Will it eventually remember the rules, to color inside the lines, to move at the bell, to get with the program, and feel the gravity of the economic imperative, to know the weight that holds our heads low and drags us from our beds before sunrise, convinces us to trade our labor for valued paper and drone on? Yet there is something there under the rubble. It is Old Nogales Highway.
Beginning in 1968, Tucson dealt with its rush hour traffic by turning the center lane of several streets into one-way lanes. Each weekday morning and again in the afternoon, these designated express lanes would ostensibly allow for more traffic where and when it was needed. But it's how those lanes appeared and vanished each day that's the focus of this installment of From the Vault.
I get up at 5.
And be to work by 6. Then we leave the shop about 25 after, be out there, get the cones all ready. Then we start putting them out.
6:45, we put them down. 8:45, we start picking up. We're usually off the road at 9.
Or a minute
Right
or two
after.
after or something. But usually about 9. It's timing and rhythm, yeah. The speed on how fast you swing your arm to accord and how fast you're going.
And he's the best one we've got.
This is about 4.5 miles we got to do. And kind of wonder the first time you do it, whether you're going to get it done in 15 minutes. We had the chair made so we can switch sides depending on whether we're picking up or putting down. That way traffic's never behind us.
There's a lot of people around here that, enjoy us.
Yeah. There's a lot of people when we're putting out the cones, like mainly in the afternoon, they'll say, it's not 4 o'clock yet. They'll tell me it's not 4 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, but it takes 15 minutes to put these cones on the road. You can't just start at 4 o'clock and have them down at 4 o'clock.
Also says no left turns when cones in place. It doesn't specify what time.
Yeah. Can do it at 30 miles an hour.
He can. 23 is my top. 30 picking up, but 23 is top for putting down.
3:45, we start putting them down. Then 5:45, we start picking them up again. Then we're it for the day until the next day.
We'd like to ask for your help. Since this story was produced back in 1988, the names of the two Coners have been lost. If you think you can identify either of these gentlemen, please tell us. Just visit the Submit Your Story link on the Arizona Illustrated page at azpm.org. Like what you see on Arizona Illustrated? Visit our webpage at azpm.org to watch and share videos from this episode. You'll also find stories from future programs, an easy way to submit your own story idea, an archive of past episodes of Arizona Illustrated, and you'll find everything you need to stay connected with public broadcasting in Southern Arizona. azpm.org. Streets are named for a variety of reasons, most unremarkable. Words that sound enchanting, pleasant, or geographically appropriate. Then there are the streets that reflect a direct history to a person, or as we saw earlier, a place. In our next story, we team up with David Layton of the Arizona Daily Star to analyze the history and reason behind the names of 4 of Tucson's busiest streets. You're hearing the program here on listener-supported NPR 89.1, where it's 19 minutes past 4 o'clock. Let's look at Tucson area traffic once again. Tanque Road at Wentworth Road is closed this afternoon due to flooding. As an alternative, use Houghton Road. Pronouncing words appropriately, that's part of my job. An essential part of how we communicate is to get it right. And getting it right means we do our best to say things the way they are intended to be said.
The whole dilemma about word pronunciation on radio and television is an interesting one. And when it comes to proper names in the Tucson area, there's a lot of controversy about it.
My name's David Layton. I'm a freelance journalist for the Arizona Daily Star newspaper, and I write a column called Street Smarts, where I study the origin of street names in Tucson. Prior to about 1950, a lot of the streets in Tucson do have history. After 1950, you got a lot of developers coming in from Phoenix, California, and they're just naming streets anything.
The English language and all languages are fluid. They change, they evolve, pronunciations change. It's really important for us to recognize that, but at the same time, have some standards that we can bear out.
Plumber.
Plumer. Plumber.
Plumber.
Plumber?
I pronounce it plumber.
My daughter, she lived on Plumer for a while, and every time I would drive past there, I would say, that looks like Plumer to me. And then I started asking folks and realized that most folks in Tucson say plumber.
Plumber, named after a guy named Nathaniel Plummer, who was the president of the Southern Arizona Bank. He was a prominent land developer. Nathaniel E. Plummer is how they pronounced it. Again, if you talk to the old timers who've been here for a long, long time, they'll all tell you it's Plummer.
Houghton.
Houghton. Houghton.
Houghton.
Houghton.
Houghton.
And we do here at Arizona Public Media go with the family's preferred pronunciation, which is Houghton.
Boy, I'm not sure I've ever heard that.
We say Houghton because the family, the Houghton family, which is a member of the Tucson community for, I guess, a long time, says their name as Houghton. We respect their wishes and say their name the way they would say it, even though I know a lot of people around town say it in different ways.
How it became Houghton, I'm not really sure, but it's definitely Houghton. The name is actually derived from homesteaders William and Florence Houghton. They did homestead 640 acres out in the area, and Houghton Road was the western boundary of their homestead. And their home supposedly was located where Old Spanish Trail and Houghton meet. It was a tough life, even back in the late 1920s, 1930s, having to dig wells and stuff like that. They were somewhat pioneers themselves. And I think it's important, since these streets do honor people, that we pronounce them correctly.
We are on the side of pronouncing it the way the family has told us it is pronounced. Now, then we come to an exception to that. And this one's a dilemma, I admit.
Ina.
Ina. Anna. Ina.
Ina.
It's always been Ina as long as I've been here.
The road that everyone calls Ina is correctly pronounced Ina. Its name derives from a woman named Ina Giddings. She was the first female director of the physical education department for women at the University of Arizona. She also had a homestead out there, and as a result of that, this street was named in her honor.
Ina Giddings is an icon around the University of Arizona, especially for those of us that have been involved in sports and activity and fitness all of our lives. We heard she was a fireball, and she had lots of thoughts and ideas about the future, particularly of women in athletics. When physical education first started for women at the university, in the catalog it said that their purpose was for poise, grace, and carriage. And so literally there are photos of women walking around with broomsticks on their heads and things like that. And she took that from poise, grace, and carriage to an actual fitness and an activity level, introducing basically intramurals here on campus. The new generation, of course, is always looking forward rather than looking back, but we try to make sure that the historical perspective is still there.
Well, yeah, I mean, have you ever heard anybody in Tucson say Ina Road? I never have, not even once. I guess it's just one of those quirky things that's accepted among our population here that, yeah, it's Ina, even though we know it's Ina.
I think if we said at this stage Ina Road, people would perhaps not know what we're talking about. It's a dilemma because it's been pronounced Ina as long as I can remember, and I was born and raised in Tucson. What to do about that dilemma, I don't know. Maybe we should ask our viewers and listeners to weigh in on it and decide if we should pronounce it the way Ina Giddings originally pronounced her name.
It was pronounced as Ina. And then later on I heard that it was named after someone named Ina. And I said, yeah, but we don't say that.
I'd have to consciously think to say Ina, and if I did, everybody would correct me and tell me that I'm saying it wrong.
You know, I try to do my part. When I'm on campus, when I refer to her, I refer to it as Ina Road as opposed to Ina Road, and try to explain the historical significance of that, but it just doesn't seem to catch on.
She actually, in several newspaper articles, would write to the Arizona Daily Star, Tucson Citizen, and saying this is how it's pronounced. People are pronouncing correctly. She had a long fight. It doesn't look like she won the fight, but it is Ina Road for Ina Giddings.
Tucson.
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 Sometimes they say Tucson, but I say Tucson.
The name Tucson is derived from the Native American word Tucson, which means loosely translated as water at the bottom of the Black Mountain, because there was water that ran at the bottom of what's now called A Mountain. It's a slight modification from Tucson to Tucson to Tucson. And I think that it naturally happens in all groups of people in all places. Who knows, maybe the Native Americans weren't very agreeable to the idea of calling it Tucson instead of Tucson, but that's many hundreds of years past, so it's difficult to say.
This week, we launch a new series of stories entitled Arizona Profiles. Each week, we'll present a personal recollection, a moving memory, or a little-known Arizona story. As a boy growing up in Arizona, Keith Conley dreamed of flying, and it turned out Phoenix was the perfect place for him to have that dream. He became a fighter pilot and served 2 tours in Vietnam.
I first started out at North High in Phoenix, Arizona. And then after a while, I kind of became interested in aviation. And there was Phoenix Technical High School in those days. And so I ended up graduating from Phoenix Technical School because it offered an aeronautical course down there where you could literally work on airplanes. I got interested in aviation quite early in my life. I went to Phoenix College, 2-year college in those days, and worked as a service station attendant. After I started flying then at Phoenix College, I applied for the Air Force. I wanted to be a pilot. It's around the 1964 time frame, and I was in then the F-100 Super Sabre, and I was a combat-ready pilot. A lot of people wanted to get to Vietnam because everybody figured it'll be over tomorrow. This is going to be over tomorrow. The Yanks are coming. We're fighting a bunch of third world country people. Once we show them what we can do, it's going to change the outcome. So were we wrong? We terribly underestimated the capability of the enemy. We certainly underestimated their endurance and their ability to fight for their cause. In 1969, things had changed, okay? One, it was no longer a, quote, adventure. It was the beginning of what I call the disillusionment of Vietnam, meaning my wife, as an example, was then staying in a home that we rented in Phoenix, Arizona, because our family was there. And when our neighbors found out that I was in Vietnam as a pilot, they wouldn't talk to her. They shunned her. So that was the start of that sort of activity, if you will, if you happen to be a military man. I think 1969, 1970 was really the beginning of the end of our love affair, if you will, for fighting in Vietnam.
What are your memories of the Vietnam War? Maybe you or someone close to you served, or maybe it impacted your life in a different way. Share your story with us by visiting our website, azpm.org. This September, watch for the new AZPM original documentary, Arizona and the Vietnam War, crafted from the personal stories of those who served in the war that defined a generation. Also in September, directors Ken Burns and Lynn Novick tell the epic story of the Vietnam War as it's never been told on film. A 10-part, 18-hour film series, The Vietnam War, this September on PBS 6. Thank you for joining us on Arizona Illustrated. Next week, the cultural and personal relationships forged by Tumamoc Hill.
Why couldn't we malt barley over a mesquite fire instead of a peat fire?
A mesquite craftsman taps into a long scientific legacy to create unique spirits. And an ex-cop and veteran who is doing his best to make a difference.
I don't want them to have any limitations in their lives. I want them to know that they can do that because they can get in there and fight.
I'm Tom McNamara. See you then.